It is not my habit to discuss political affairs. And it is not that political affairs are not important, but it is that the political affairs ultimately start in the heart of humanity. And for those who walk with people who struggle with their own internal evil and who seek to create a bulwark or a fortress or a protection against the evil of the world generally around us, we usually are attempting to hold out external evil, but the truth of the matter is all evil starts in the human heart. This past weekend, Israel was attacked. Israel was attacked on a Jewish holiday that was known as the Great Day of Sukkot, the 8th day of Sukkot. And in the middle of the night in the West, and as people were in the process of celebrating, and whether they were secular Israelis celebrating or religious Jewish people celebrating, there ended up being an attack. Now, one of the problems that countries that believe that they're strong and countries that have put much energy into securing themselves come to is sometimes they come to a place of pride. And sometimes what ends up happening is when you come to a place of pride, you believe that you are invincible. You believe that you are truly secure. And different countries have different points where they come to a place where they have to deal with the fact that the security that they believe is their divine right is actually not really theirs. And the United States, on 9/11 in 2001, had an attack. And there was no military that was close to us. There was no push against our borders, but there was a lackadaisical security that happened in the United States, where we allowed our borders to be open. We didn't worry about people who hated us. We didn't worry about whether or not we were vulnerable. And a group of well-coordinated terrorists ended up taking multiple airplanes and using them as missiles to destroy symbols of economic and military power. And so this is not going after Israel politically for saying they should have known. This is not going after Israel as a society or as a people for being careless, because ultimately many, many people do become careless. But this past weekend, there were attacks. This past weekend, people are yelling and screaming about the current government being complacent. On the 50th anniversary of the attack of Israel on Yom Kippur, there was another attack. Israeli politicians are calling this the Israeli 9/11. Israeli politicians are trying to come up with answers as to why nobody was paying attention. In addition to the Israeli politicians, there were many Israelis who ended up going to the southmost point in Israel, close to Gaza. And when they went to the place that was close to Gaza, what ends up happening is they are a mile from the border, but they believe that the border is invulnerable and invincible. And they have a party. And the folks who sponsor the party get minimal amounts of security. At no point did they consider that possibly they are a target and they are vulnerable because they are so close to an enemy territory. Israel itself had set up Gaza and had turned Gaza over to Muslim Arabs so they could have their own state. And as a result of having turned over Gaza to Muslim Arabs, over a period of time, the Muslim Arabs who were in Gaza elected a political organization called Hamas to end up being a majority of those who were in their version of the Congress, who ended up having a radical hatred of Israel. And when they elected out of Gaza a group of people who truly hated Israel and whose stated claim is to create genocide against the Jewish people, those in Gaza should expect at some point in time war will break out. Those in Israel who created Gaza as a point to be kind and gracious to a people that they don't want to be at war with have to understand that ancient hatreds, when the flames are fanned, will ultimately end up turning into great difficulty. And so this is not something that happened this past weekend because someone was asleep at the switch security-wise. This is something that has happened because there are people who have hatred that goes back decades, goes back hundreds of years, it even goes back thousands of years. So in terms of this, I'm probably not going to be the best person to give you the military blow-by-blow of what has happened or what should happen. I've got opinions, but in terms of this, I can tell you that what has happened is a rage that has run in the human heart in this region for thousands of years has come to a place where the flame has been lit. And Israel is in the process of being attacked from all directions. And I'm sure that if Israel successfully defends herself at this point in time, it will be presented to the world stage as Israel is the bully, and Israel is highly armed, and Israel is a horrific group of people who just take advantage of poor squatters who live in the desert. And at this point in time, thousands of rockets will be forgotten. At this time, the coordination and the cooperation potentially of international powers will be forgotten. At the time of the shooting of this video, the president of Iran is congratulating the Palestinians and saying he supports Hamas and he supports everything that's going on, while at the same time, Iran is saying that they have had nothing to do with what has happened. Both statements can't be true at the same time. Likewise, you have a situation where the United States itself has very recently, through the Biden administration, unfrozen Iranian assets that have been held. And it is curious and interesting that this Hamas attack did not happen at a point in time before Iranian assets were unfrozen, but only after Iran has available opportunity to get to resource that they have not had access to for many, many years. Once that's unfrozen, what is it? A couple weeks? And then all of a sudden there's an attempt to destroy Israel with weapons that the vast majority of have come from Iran or come from Russia. It is also interesting that this attack against Israel is opening up a second area of war, a second front, that in a war in a region where Ukraine and Russia have been fighting for over a year. And so, is it advantageous to the Russians to have multiple fronts going on? Has the West and has NATO implicitly working through the Ukraine had a hand in weakening Russia militarily? Yes, that has gone on. Is it possible that Russia has reason to give help to opening up multiple fronts, hoping to do to NATO and to the West what has been done to them? Is this a form of military payback? Maybe. All these things will come out in the weeks and months ahead. It is no question that there is going to be a massive loss of life. It is also no question that there are going to be people who are going to end up telling lies. There are going to be people who twist the truth. The media is going to come out and be absolutely unable to label terrorists terrorists. They are going to be in a position where ancient hatred and things that have been going on in the hearts of people who are religiously twisted and corrupted will be overlooked. It'll be a point where no matter what the facts are, people are going to end up creating spin and narrative to get politically out of this conflict what they want. But that doesn't bring back any of the folks who were at a party near the border of Gaza, 260 of which, as of the shooting of this video, have been declared dead. It doesn't end up dealing with the fact that there may be 130 Israelis who are being held hostage. It doesn't deal with the fact that the United States has been very cavalier in paying very high prices for hostages and emboldening those who are in the business of terror to think that they can make a boatload of money and get enormous concessions out of people for a small number of hostages. It doesn't overlook the fact that people will be murdered. It doesn't overlook the fact that the people in Gaza who voted for people who were filled with hatred and wanted to go to war, many of them will die. Many of them will lose family members. Many of them will see their society go from being a fairly comfortable world down to being bombed back into the Stone Age. And at the end, does anybody win? I don't know. If you end up destroying your society in order to cause or inflict pain on someone else is more important than you're actually building a society, maybe you win. An Israeli prime minister who had been an American school teacher at one point in time said, "We will never have peace, the Israelis with the Muslims, until such time as the Arabs love their own children more than they hate us." So this is not an isolated event. This is not an event that should be a surprise. This is an event that has been birthed out of the hatred in the hearts of people whose religion really should be examined very carefully. There are people who say all religions are equal and all religions are the same. It's a careless and a stupid statement to make, because all religions are not the same. And there are religions that fan the fires of hatred in people's hearts. And there are also religions, teachings, and embodiments of spirituality that create people who love even their enemies. And at no point in time should we ever look at them and they say they're all the same. Shalom.